So when I say markets don't like gaps, like here, we can see a physical gap on the, well, that's not what I wanted. Get this dumb thing off here. A physical gap on the chart, right? Because this closed here and then gapped up the next morning.
Right.
So that's a physical gap. At some point that'll get filled. On the major indexes, it tends to be relatively quickly. It's not usually a year, but it could be. The other kind of gap, and I define it as a gap, even though technically it might not be, is something that looks like this. See on the downside, how we closed this darn thing here, and then it opened, came up, pulled back down. The gap, I see this as a gap between this candle and this candle, meaning this huge down candle creates its own sort of gap almost.
Okay.
And you see how price came above it and came and sort of
Didn't reach there.
yeah, kind of, it was too strong to fill the gap back to that level, and it kept going. What we see here, this makes perfect sense to me that price sold off because of this box I'd drawn Sunday that indicated to me there were stops being run and we're at the top of the broadening formation. And then it filled the actual physical gap on the chart. Now, when I'm looking at this chart currently, to me, I need more information, meaning this type of format is usually a fairly bullish format if we get buyers to step back in for a 2-2 reversal back up.
Right.
But that's the key, right? We need to see, I'm going to change the scaling, buyers stepping in. And I've always, I had an older trader that taught me charting pretty well. And sorry, this is going rogue on me. And I never used to know what he meant by that. I was like, what does he mean buyers stepping in? And to me, what that would look like is we're getting back above the wick on the candle today.
So it would be like a 2-2 reversal, basically.
Exactly. Yeah, and so as far as looking at market internals, and I don't think I drew this for Qs, but it's very similar, right? So if we, Sunday night, if I had drawn that same kind of box on the chart, like I've got here, I would have kind of expected the same thing. And I looked at all of them. IWM has been struggling for a while now, right? It just was struggling a little bit. I'm trying to look here because it's been in this level forever.
Right.
Not making new all-time highs, so that tells you something. And here's the deal, the small cap index is usually the leader on the way in and the leader on the way out, meaning if things start declining, you typically see it first with the small caps.
Okay.
And so let's look at after hours really quick. In after hours, to me, I mean, I look at it, I don't overly put a lot of stock in it because what's more important is the pre-market behavior, and then obviously what happens during the major trading session at market open is even more important still. But what the pre-market will tell you is what is likely to happen, at least at the open on a chart.
Okay.
So, you know, let's rewind. And you had taken PDD, right? So let's,
Yeah, I took it. So I realized it was a gap up. So some of it was FOMO, but
yeah, which happens. I mean, believe me, I am no one to judge on FOMO. The number of FOMO trades that I have taken in my, I could not break it for the longest time. I
Yeah,
seriously, I wanted to go ram my head into a wall. It was like,
because
why do I keep doing this? You know?
yeah, the thing is, I was so I don't get that much time. I'm a medical student, so it's
Oh
like
yeah,
yeah. So
yeah,
I was free yesterday in the morning, so I was like, oh, I'll do a swing trade that can last me for a few weeks. So I
yeah.
was looking through my list, and PDD gapped up, and I kind of liked the setup, so I was like, I'll enter this. But then it went against me
DJ.
today, and then I was like, great.
I get it, man. I get it. I have zero judgment about that because I've done it so many times. You know, I've finally broken myself of the habit, but it
Right.
is, you're normal that way. I would say all new traders that are honest, why is this being so goofy? I'm trying to get, sorry, I'm trying to change up my chart to show you, and I don't know what it's doing here. I might have to grab my trading view. Okay, there we go. Just like a couple things to notice, and we'll look at today's price action. So I always tell traders, let's just say you're looking to get into this today and you're trying to figure out what direction it's going to go. And there's a decent amount of range there. A point on $100 stock isn't horrible, but I kind of have this rule that I look at the extremes and really, let me move that line down a little bit. When I see a pre-market chart that opens near the top of the range, meaning at one point we were all the way down to 106.04. And then it got up to 107.40, right? So almost a point and a half.
Right.
And it opened nearer the top of that range, like almost right at the top. And then you see it wicked right above.
Right.
The minute I see that it's opening near the top of pre-market range, my head is thinking the first directional pick is gonna be down.
Okay.
And what that means is a couple things. I actually like to trade the open. And do you trade options or do you trade?
Yeah, I trade
Yeah.
options. Yeah.
Yeah, and the reason you know, if the reason I like the open for a quick trade is gamma is one of the Greeks with options, and
Right.
it requires that swift movement, right? And you're gonna get that at the open because you got institutions repositioning and so forth. If I had taken this, just an example, my target would have been pre-market lows, and then I would have gone to the daily chart for lows beyond that, likely. But if we're looking at these longer time frames, you just got to be a little careful. And I would say start with the SPY and the Qs
Okay.
and go to their longer, you know, go to the monthly, and sometimes the monthly isn't going to give you enough detail because we're still new in the month.
Right.
And that's where, you know, going into the week, I was looking at this daily going, well, gosh darn it, it looks like it's at the top of this broadening formation.
Right.
And so that's where you see on Tuesday, am I on the daily now? Like, sorry, my chart isn't all the way loaded there. This is the thing that drives me nuts about TC2000. Like with TradingView, it's so easy to manipulate the magnitude of these charts.
Right. Yeah, trading is very easy.
Yeah, TC can be a little grumpy. See how the candles are all squished? But when I'm seeing that, I think I talked about it in my video, it makes me a little hesitant because I'm thinking, you know, I'm thinking, one, I need more information. In other words, how is Tuesday going to open? Well, Tuesday didn't give us a great showing. So now I'm thinking, okay, it's filled in this gap area, and buyers did to some degree step back in, meaning, do drives me nuts that it does that, meaning they pushed price back up here when it was all the way down here. That's a good sign for
Right.
tomorrow. So if we're looking at PDD again, what you
So-
want to do.
So like me entering, so yesterday SPY was red, but PDD gapped up. So
Yes.
already it's conflicting.
Yes. Well, and here's the thing. Now for yesterday, that's showing you some relative strength, meaning that's a good time to do a day trade instead of a swing, because when you do a swing, you really want whatever your trade is to be in alignment with the greater or the broader market spectrum.
Right.
You see a gap up, and they were like Myrna, Amazon. I had posted videos about those, and they showed relative strength yesterday because they took off and Qs were kind of flat and SPY went down. But generally speaking, as a newer trader, how long have you been trading?
It's been about a year, but I learned the strat like 3 months ago. But
Oh,
I'm still not
yeah.
profitable.
Yeah, well, and quite honestly, a year is nothing, like in trading
Right.
language. And I've been trading, I want to say 3 years now.
Okay.
And I started learning the strat a year ago, but I think the fact that I had so many years, 2 years of mistakes and everything else before then, and before I live traded, I think I had practice traded for a year. So say it's 4 years all in. They say on average, it's a 3 to 5 year window.
Okay.
My point in telling you that is don't feel the least bit embarrassed, bad, shameful.
Right.
This is a really crazy journey.
Right.
And what I want to tell you is you will get there. The reason most people don't is they give up.
Right. No, I'm not the type to give up.
Yeah, if you're a med student, you're not going to give up.
Yeah, I go through extreme pressure, so this is
yeah. So the thing I would have noticed, or and I'm sure you did here, is that when this thing opened, it opened below the close from yesterday.
Right.
Okay. Now, does that always mean that it's not gonna make newer highs? No. But one of my thoughts and kind of general observations about charts is, especially overnight, if I see a retracement, that's not quite 50%, but it's fairly close, just eyeballing it. If I see that, I get a little concerned. Now, clearly it opened and then started pushing up. But for a chart to be strong, I want to see it opening above the previous day's close and pushing higher. When I see that gap down, it's another thing where I go, that's interesting. I need more information.
Okay.
But I would just pay a lot of attention to what these indexes are going to do.
Right.
And tomorrow, let's see if buyers stepped in on SPY after hours. And again, after hours, I like to look at it, but the true important thing is what happens pre-market. Pre-market, there's a lot of institutions that step in and position portfolios. So to me, that's got a little more significance, but I still look at how goofy my charts want to be here. This drives me crazy. But what questions do you have, like, as far, because I can help go over entries or do whatever you.
Yeah, so like as I said, I swing trade for like using the monthly mainly.
Yeah.
So like, for instance, PDD is 2 down green on the I had like a hammer to the green last month.
Yeah.
And then this month it's 2 up.
Yeah.
So how would you like enter that, like right on the trigger, or you would like wait for a reversal on the lower time frame? Because I was watching Sarah's videos and she like looks at the daily and the weekly and enters on that.
Yeah, and I'm sort of weird only because of the way I learned to trade. And just a quick observation here about SPY. You see how it closed up here and after hours we're selling off.
Right.
What we now need to observe in the morning is that it doesn't continue that sell-off. And if it does continue that sell-off, the first directional pick may likely be up, and then we need to see if it holds, you know. But here's my issue is that I was taught to day trade on the minute chart. So
Right.
part of the difficulty is I'm very good at reading the minute chart in the context of the higher time frames. So if I'm eyeballing a swing, for instance, Amazon was one that was in my Sunday vid,
Right.
and it hit the target in one day, right? So I go down and I look at the minute chart, and often that's just too much for newer traders to do. And you know, this chart I probably could trade in my sleep because I've traded it so many times, but I know what to look for here. And the reality is when I'm looking at charts, I look at the overall market structure and the bigger picture, because sometimes what you do is you go to, you know, whether it's the monthly on PDD or what have you, and you're so zoomed in on those candles that you might not see what's happening on the lower time frame. So minute might be too fast. What I would say then is a 4 hour can be a good, a 4 hour or a daily. I don't think your entry on the daily is a bad idea. You just, one of the biggest secrets I can give you, and it's not really a secret, if you can learn to trade reversals, so get it after it's hammered and jump in, your odds of success will go up tremendously. That's just, especially with options.
Right.
Because, and here's on the 4 hour, you see how clear the signals can be. Let me just make that a little bigger. So here's a real good entry off a 4 hour chart. And that is the break of this inside candle. And your magnitude is back here. Now it almost got there, not quite. For me, that would have been close enough. And likely with this type of market, knowing it's September, this year has been very low in volatility. So I would expect September, October, one of them, to have a decent pullback. We haven't really had many pullbacks. So I'm going to be looking at this in the context of the swing, but I may take positions off a lot faster right now, given the fact that if I've got money, I want it in my pocket, because September and October can be real wonky.
Got it. Okay.
And so I would maybe say, look at the monthly, the weekly, the daily, and the 4 hour, or I like the 195 minute, only because it divides the trading day into 2 equal candles. I always struggle with the 4 hour, right? Because the trading day is 6.5 hours, not 8. So then I'm like, okay, where does it break? Or how do you know? Like my brain has a hard time. So to simplify it, I'll do a 195 minute, which is almost the same. It's just what, 3.25 hours instead of 4.
Right.
If you follow what I'm saying.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and here you see a real nice signal off that inside candle. That's one you could have taken pretty much. Well, I'll look at that was the Tuesday chart. Pretty much as soon as you see it start going green, because it opened. Let's pull back let's go to like a 30 minute on PDD from Tuesday. Is this is the 7th? Yeah, so it gapped up It opened, came down. This is why I like to go even a little more granular, because you can see, you can keep a tighter stop. I can see what's happening a little bit cleaner. If this wasn't such a dumb chart. The scaling on it drives me nuts. You know what, I'm gonna grab my trading view just for the scaling. I escape out of this. I'll move this over and share the screen instead. Give me just a quick sec. It's on Bitcoin right now. Okay, so PDD. And go to, it's so much easier. Yeah, it took off right out of the gate, right? Now, the issue then becomes when you get a winning trade and you're in profit right away, because that was a real nice move from 104 to 108. How many contracts are you typically trading?
Right now I'm only trading one.
Okay, that's good.
I just want to get the hang of it right now.
Yeah, no.
It's not about the money.
No,
Yeah.
I think that's very responsible, because a lot of times traders will jump in and I'm going to trade 5 or 10, and you can lose thousands of bucks real quick. So
Yeah, that's what I did in the, like, when I first learned the strat, that's what I did, and then I realized I just lost money like this. And I was
yes. So yeah, you could have gotten into this guy. And I think with TradingView, I can turn on pre-market so we can take a look at. They just changed the way that you do pre-market and stuff, which I get so used to the way a thing works. So here's an interesting scenario. So we have here's a huge amount of range pre-market, right? We had these lows here in the extended hours. And then before the open, we got all the way up there. Wow, that's huge range. So I'm going to be doing a couple things if I'm eyeballing this. And you can draw this on 195-minute, whatever time frame, but you can see there's a trend line here. And I'm going to look at this and go, okay, well, there's a massive gap. This thing's first directional pick is going to be down. And certainly it was here. Right. And then it came and wicked back and did a retest. This would have been real difficult to get the right entry, especially for a newer trader, because that's kind of all over the board. But one thing I want to tell you, just observation wise, and this is what will help you when you're done with the trading day, go back to the charts and just make some observations, because what I noticed right out of the gate is it double topped right here. So that's something that's going to make me ponder again and go, I need more information, because it couldn't get above that 109 level. And if I'm doing a swing, I want to see, a swing to the long side. I want to see successive higher highs, right?
Right.
And then you're looking at pre-market today. And what do we notice here? Well, we notice we had some highs here. And then if I'm drawing a downtrend line, each one of these, I mean, this isn't perfect, but they're lower highs. So that would tell me, again, pre-market, we've got these lows. It's near the top of the range. It's right on that trend line. This thing's going down.
Okay.
So this stuff, it's like learning to read hieroglyphics.
Right.
It really is. I used to sit there and stare at these dang candles for hours, and I could not figure out what the heck I was looking at. But it's simpler than you might realize, meaning when you see something on, and this is a low time frame, this is a 2-minute, but I'm sure, you know, if we go into the 30-minute, we can see the same darn thing, right? When you start seeing a series of lower highs, and this is where pre-market can really help you. There's a lot of argument in the trading world about I watch pre-market, I don't watch pre-market. The reality is whatever works for you, but I believe the pre-market gives you clues. So this lower high is a pre-market lower high. It's telling me something. I need more information, but it's giving me the thought that the likelihood at the open is down, right?
Right. Okay.
And
Makes sense.
do you notice this too? Look where it stopped. One other thing I'll give you in terms of pointers, all these yellows are the inside candles. Price always goes and retests what I call areas of interest. And these are special candles. Special candles would be your inside candles. And then you notice right here, this trend line I have really, if I move it just a little bit, it's on the back of these outside candles. So you will notice on all time frames, let's see on like a weekly, for instance, price is going to come back and retest areas where there's these inside candles. It always does. It's uncanny. So I think, and how do I pronounce your name?
Shivam.
Shivam, I would, one thing you can do, and most people are not disciplined enough to do this, but if you go in and mark up charts and send them to me,
Sure.
I'll look at them and help you, because for me, that's really what helped me, is starting to really make those observations. What stopped my FOMO is I started making observations on these smaller time frames, and I'll give you a good example on a reversal trade today. If you look at, how do I tell, for instance, you see how it had this sell-off, when I can get in to go long? There's a couple things. Again, if I draw the downtrend line, there's that, and then there's also this double bottom right here. So I don't typically take the double bottom, because sometimes market makers like to grab liquidity right below and stop you out and then turn around and reverse it. So I generally wait for the first candle that closes, and you can do this on any time frame. This works on a 4-hour, works on a daily, also works on a weekly. First candle to break that downtrend line is here, right? So I patiently sit on my hands and I wait for a retest. This black candle right here is my retest candle. I don't get in on a candle, not in my direction. I wait for the retest and the next candle to go my way, which in this case is this little inside guy. I'll take an entry there.
Got it. Makes sense.
Does that make sense? And a lot of times what'll happen, this is very common, you see how it comes up and then it comes back down and retests that area right where I got in. DJ, sorry. Right here with this, that's an area where when price goes back my way, I can add. Because you know how when price goes against you with options,
Right.
It can suck up a lot of your profit, and then you go, well, darn it. And then when you're a newer trader, it gets harder to hold on to it, because you're like, wait a minute, I was up, now I'm down. And again, this type of idea works on any time frame. It doesn't have to be a 1-minute chart by any means. You'll find this all over the place. Just like the strat works on any time frame. so do these types of setups. Like here's Amazon. Here's the first candle to break that downtrend on the 4-hour chart right here. Drawing that physical line is what would stop me from FOMOing. Like with Tesla, when it would break out, I would always like jump in and turn on and slam through the level. And I finally started drawing the lines and waiting for the retest. And it would, when it would retest and fail, it prevented me from getting in bad trades that went against me. Now there will be times it won't retest, it'll just go. And that happens to every trader. You are not going to catch every trade. Nobody can. If they tell you they can, they're full of baloney, I think. You know, I mean, but these little clues, I think, will help. What questions do you have on? It's a lot to throw at you in a quick period.
I have to go right now, but
All
I
right,
can
cool.
text you. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Have a good night.
You too.
What's that?